Okay.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Marvel Podcast. Today we're going to have a lot of fun. It's Super Bowl Sunday, and we're celebrating a Super Bowl of sorts with the return of another big character in WandaVision. It's going to be a super fun time, my friend, and WandaVision has been really excellent so far. I've been really impressed. It seems like the episodes are getting longer, too. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, I posted a theory about it, but I think it could translate to kind of like how over the years the length of show times have increased to like become more of drama, more grander things with more things that could happen, and So I think that as the show goes on, that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah, this episode was fantastic. It was cool because we had the dueling POVs. Now we had what's inside of the hex of Westview, not the hex. We could call you Hex Dogma. That would be kind of funny. But now we have a meta term, which we were pondering about in the first couple of episodes because we thought that Agnes was the character of Agatha Harkness. So that makes things a lot more interesting. Yeah, the back and forth of this episode makes things really, really interesting. What I am going to do is I actually pressed the live button by accident. And I'm going to go grab my coffee, so Chris is going to entertain you until then. So I'll be right back in just a moment, everyone.
Sounds good, everybody. Yeah, how are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Go ahead and post any questions you have and anything like that in the comments. Greetings to everybody. Jess, Kate, Amy, Carl. Everybody, Anthony, welcome. Yeah, what did you guys think of this episode? It's I don't know. I don't want to say, like, every week it seems like I say that my favorite episode is the most recent episode, and I think a lot of people do that because of like recency fallacy, right? Like, you watch a movie and it's the newest, coolest thing, and then it's like, whoa, like that was the best thing I've ever seen. When in reality it was just like, it was all right. But it's like, I feel like legitimately every single week, it's just the next episode or this episode is just such a revelation compared to the last episodes. So again, I'll ask Kyle when he gets back, but I think that this is 100% my favorite episode. The reveal at the end, the suspense is like we still figure out what or how people are perceiving Wanda on the outside now is just money, chef's kiss. What did I think of the aging of the kids? Yeah, so like I think I'm happy that it happened, right? And I guess like we kind of had to figure that it would happen simply because yeah, I mean, like she's been doing these time jumps this whole time. It is pretty spectacular to think that, like, and maybe not for the child actors who could one day become the older versions of these characters, but it's like so many people are now Wiccan and Speed, and whoever gets cast as Wiccan and Speed at the very end of it, all of the other actors can say that they were technically that superhero as well, which I think is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool because we also have the appearance of Monica Rambeau, who's going to play a huge role in Captain Marvel 2, and beyond that, let's talk about that a little bit because we start off the episode with her, Chris, and she's getting a scan, and that scan goes blank. And we know in the comics, interestingly enough, she's actually irradiated by this cosmic energy, and she becomes the character of Photon, the superhero Photon, which is a nice little Easter egg we got in the last episode when Maria Rambeau's plaque was on the wall and Director Hayward and Monica were having their conversation as they were walking through Sword.
Yeah, 100%. And so there's 3 names that I think she could be, and that's Photon, Pulsar, or Spectrum. Mm-hmm. So actually, chat, if you guys want to vote down below, I'm going to have the same question in my video, but you guys think it's going to be Pulsar, Photon, or Spectrum if she is the superhero, which I think she is. The only reason that you would ever have those scans be blank and do some crazy thing like that where the blood test needs to be redrawn, and of course machinery breaks around you after being exposed to particles of cosmic radiation or something. I don't know. Whatever the science fiction behind it is, I think 100% she will be a superhero.
Well, that same radiation and energy was what helped create the Infinity Stones at the start of the Big Bang in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? We had, of course,
Potentially,
yeah, it's really interesting
yeah.
because we know that some characters, such as Mephisto, have been around since that time, and he thinks that he was around since the time of the Infinity Stone. So we have these ancient beings, obviously, who are comprised. I mean, we all have CMBR all around us, but this is this is specific. This is specific though because she was literally tossed through it like forcefully, and she was exposed to it.
And there's something else to consider in the sense of like the beekeeper, right? We know that he has consciously traversed that field. And is there a difference between their experiences? You could kind of say yes, he had a radiation suit on, and that potentially protected him from whatever happened. But at the same time, it's like maybe we consider or should consider that he could be exposed. We're dealing with some crazy particle that is 100% science fiction. So I think it still leaves room for that radiation suit to mean nothing. I mean, it was literally converted to a bee suit. You're telling me that you're going to sit here and tell me that it's like, yeah, no way that he could become a bad guy, right? Like, or a good guy, a superhero. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's on the table.
I'm fearful for that guy. I don't think he met the same end as Monica. Because one thing that struck me as really interesting in this episode was when people announce what their intentions are. For example, when Monica is flying the drone into Westview and Wanda's looking at it with red eyes and they're watching her on the screen, he says, "Take the shot with the missile." Like, that was kind of curious, right? Like in that scenario, Chris, like he wanted to kill Wanda, which would have left us with less questions. We would have had a lot less information. And then, of course, later on in the episode, when she, pulls through this energy field that she's created, she points all of the lasers onto Director Hayward, not onto Monica, because Monica's announcing herself. She's like, "Hey, like, listen, I'm not trying to cause a conflict with you. I'm here to talk with you and try to figure out why you're doing this." Director Hayward, man, like that felt really revealing to me in this episode because you could see even when we're first, like Director Hayward is first showing the video, you see that Jimmy Woo and Wanda and others and Darcy are like speaking up like, "Hey, like we kind of know Wanda. This really doesn't fit her profile, even though she had that accident in Lagos and she was being experimented on by Strucker." So it really, this episode was really revealing in the sense that Sword is getting away from those core values from Monica's mom. Like they were experimenting on Vision, so it kind of makes sense that Wanda would be protective of her husband if they're like pulling him apart and using him in their weapons program, which was actually in his will. He didn't want that at all. So really, really interesting revelations in this episode, man. Like I felt like Sword wasn't the good guy here, because they've basically, for the most part, tried to paint Wanda as unsympathetic this episode, and it didn't really work for me.
Yeah, 100%. And along with that, there is also something really interesting still happening with Wanda in the sense of she leaves the barrier and has, the juicy British, not British, Sokovian accent right away, right? Like, it's laid on thick, and that could speak to like this being the real world and closer to, because it seems like as the franchise has gone, like in the first Age of Ultron movie, her accent was like thick, and
thick, THICC, thick.
And as it's gone, it's kind of like left her. So it's like, I don't know. It's interesting to see that coming back in such a strong way. And yeah, I think that Sword, it's really good to note that it's like Vision, 100% didn't want anything that's happening to him right now to happen to him. That's because one of his biggest drives was to become, human. And it may not be, it may not explicitly to say become human, but more to empathize with humanity and understand humanity better. And so, one of the big things that happen as he dies he says that, I just feel you, right? And that's like the most human thing. To die is the most human thing you can be and to do as a artificial intelligence turned superhero. Like that is such an impactful moment for him that defines his humanity. And the reason that I think that he did not want to be resurrected is because he is that code. He is that Jarvis code still, with Bruce Banner's engineering, with Thor's lightning coming to life, and the Mind Stone, the Mind Stone to make it all happen. Like, it is amazing, and it also means that what we're probably seeing reanimated is that code. Like, it is that core programming, it is that core operating system, and Wanda is controlling it like the master puppeteer for, potentially a reason that we don't know yet, or potentially just to bring him back.
Well, you bring that up, Chris. It's really interesting. She says she doesn't know how this all started, which is, this isn't the only time she's repeated that. And I think that's, I think we both think that there's a third party at play here. Someone like Hydra, like Director Hayward now has, like, I'm completely of the mind that he might be compromised in some sort of way, because in our last podcast, Chris, we talked about, how they moved away from the core values of observation, which is something that requires patience and almost compassion, because you don't want to go destroy these other life systems and stuff like that. You know what I mean? If you're watching all of these intelligent beings on other worlds that aren't going to harm you, then okay, that's okay. You're studying, you're gathering information, but artificial intelligence and weaponry is something completely different. It's I don't want to say capitalist, but it's very different from the whole exploration vibe, which was the core foundation of Sword. And that was kind of really one of the vibes I got from this episode. You could see, Director Hayward was completely out of touch, with understanding Wanda and understanding these situations. He felt like, the common trope of that military general who just goes in and fights Godzilla because Godzilla is a threat, but doesn't understand that maybe Godzilla is killing a bigger threat. Like that kind of scenario. And it's shoot first, ask questions later. When that kind of trope is enacted or written into a saga such as this, you gotta think that, why is he shooting first and not asking questions? Because you gotta think that he doesn't want people to get more information about the scenario, and that's what my gut feeling is. That's what my gut feeling is saying about this, because we did get the footage of Wanda storming the Sword facilities with all of those scientists and their white robes and Vision basically deconstructed into 1,000 parts. That felt wrong to me. Even if Vision is artificial intelligence, that felt wrong to me.
100%. It felt like he was just a science experiment, like Tony Stark's little puppet, again, or little program again, and not something that had agency over itself, or was able to make a last will and testament. It seems like they were the first people to break that honoring of Vision. So, and ultimately it makes Wanda's decision to break in there and yank that shit out of there, not actually that bad, right? I don't know. I mean, of course it's an artificial intelligence. So, but assuming that we're just considering him a real person, then if some government organization is performing experiments on my loved one's body without his consent, post-mortem, just hell yeah, I'm doing the same.
It was all revealed through the final conversation before the credits start to roll in the episode. He's like, Wanda, I know what you're doing. I know that you're trapping thousands of people in Westview, and you trying to control me. I'm not accepting that. He was like, hey, Wanda, snap out of this. This isn't what we had previously either. This isn't reality. This isn't what we shared, which was we actually shared love.
I don't think he knows that. I from my understanding, he's kind of in a similar sense of, he doesn't, or she doesn't know how this started.
Because in the
if she
living room
knows-
scene, he does say that. He says he asked the question of what's going on to Wanda, and then
Yeah.
she says, "I don't know how this started." So they're both kind of confused on that.
Yeah, and 100%. And like she definitely has more information than he does. You know, in the sense that she is. Damn, I don't even know if I can say this actually, because like they could be totally in the exact same dark spot, right? In the sense that like everything that we see in terms of like rewinding time and editing things to make it more appealing to Wanda, that all appears to be Wanda's doing. But it could easily just be creative editing by the showrunners in real life to make it look like this is Wanda's doing and these are Wanda's actions and her consciously saying, hey, no, I don't want this. I want to change this to a more perfect reality. And a lot of the scenes I've interpreted like that. But what if it is genuinely neither of them know how they got there and they are genuinely just going through this with the best of their ability? Like the reason that he is kind of like understanding that something's going on here is that, yeah, like, you know, his core programming is this ultra super smart analytical artificial intelligence, and he's seeing that, you know, one of these things is not like the other. Like they have this secret that they're supposed to hide, but then Agnes is somehow not exposed to it. And then like, you know, Agnes breaks character, right? And breaks character and is like, hey, like Wanda, what do you want me to do here? Like, is this, you know,
let's take it from the top is let's rewind. Like she's privy to not only what Wanda's rewind magic, but she's asking Wanda like permission there. She's like, hey, like listen, you're partially constructing this. Do you want to redo this scene?
Yeah. So again, it makes it look like it's Wanda and that Wanda has agency over Vision completely. But there's also this like theory that I have that they could be in the same boat, right? Because Wanda is made to look like she's in control. A lot of the time, everybody thinks that Wanda's in control, which again, that, you know, certainty makes me question that certainty. And
well, we get that moment too, Chris, because she literally hands the drone back to Sword, which makes us believe like, oh, okay, like, yeah, Wanda really is in control, but I'm still questioning that, dude. Like, I really am.
Yeah, and like the scene where Agnes, you know, goes to Wanda for that director's cut. Like, hey, do you want me to take this from the top? I fucked the line up. What do you want me to do? I think that that's meant to look like Wanda, but I think it is entirely possible that Agnes is not talking to Wanda. Agnes is talking to whomever is controlling Wanda, right? As in like speaking to the person behind her eyes, as like, you know, someone else is editing these broadcasts and making the CMBR reflect a certain thing on the outside. And I think it's entirely possible that whoever is editing that to make this, you know, seem like something that it's not, is the person that Agnes is really talking to instead of, you know, Wanda Maximoff that we know and love.
I think that person showed up at the end of the episode. I think it's Mephisto as Pietro.
Really?
And here's why. I'm going to explain why. This is pretty crazy. Like, why does Agnes show up at like so conveniently, right? Like she shows up. It's almost like she has a crystal ball. No pun intended, witch here. But you know what I mean? Like she shows up. She shows up when so she conveniently hears the kids making a lot of noise, and then they age up instantaneously while she's there. Then
literally spraying them with a potion, right? It said that it's lavender.
She sprays them with lavender, which is used for anxiety, stress, and often grief.
Yeah, if you look witches, right? Like witches, you know, the Salem witch trials, like a lot of these things, these natural herbalism and you know, shaman healing, right? That, you know, witches could have interpreted as something that they could use in modern medicine, made witches look like, you know, they were witches, right? Or, you know, women that made these old women feel like they were but made to be witches, right? You know, and so like spraying with lavender. Sure, that is 100% something.
Dude, the dark liquor comment. The dark liquor comment means alcohol, which most potions back in the day were made with as this like kind of base, right?
That's
like this is to sustain like the rest of the herbal elements or whatever they're infusing.
Yeah.
Whatever cocktail they're trying to give to people. So that dark liquor comment, I was like, that's Agatha.
Yeah.
That's
and 100%. Yeah, 100%. Because she's literally like spraying these children, and if you walk into my home and you know make a comment about how loud my kids are being, and even if you're masking it, I don't know, Maybe I'm just a terrible, terrible person. But you're coming into my house. You're telling me that my kids are screaming as I'm clearly trying to, handle it, and you start spraying my children with something you say is lavender, right? I wouldn't trust Agnes either. Saying that it's some whatever, and then you're shaking your ass like to make that seem like what I should focus on, right? Like what? Don't do that.
Also, what's crazy, dude, is the whole dog thing. Because I researched the azalea flower and the azalea bush, and the nectar of the azalea is referred to as mad honey. It's poisonous in large amounts, and I can't like there was the red hue around everything in the episode, right? Like, yeah, why was she I felt like. Okay, what if this is this false reality? But what if she poisoned the dog? Because in that moment when Wanda she's like, "You can do that." When Billy and Tommy are questioning Wanda, like, "Bring back the dog, bring back the dog." She seemed like, she got an answer there, right? Like, I feel like she engineered that whole scenario so that she could find out if Wanda would react to that situation. Because now the kids are there, right? Conveniently. Which in the very first conversation between Agnes and Wanda, we talked about this childbirth, the common trope of the housewife. Why aren't you getting pregnant? You and your husband are supposed, baby boomer stuff, having kids, all of that.
Yeah, so for me,
I feel like this was engineered, you know what I mean? Because she shows up every time the plot needs to be moved along in whatever sitcom we're seeing.
100%.
Every single time. Right, she shows up to help with dinner. She the pineapple, and she shows up with the Easter Bunny when they need to go do the magic show, and she invites them to the council with Dottie, who says the devil is in the details. And to which Agnes replies, "That's not the only place he is." So she knows something about the devil in the details. That's clear because she has a higher understanding of whatever's going on in Westview than everyone else, even Wanda and Vision, I think.
Yeah, 100,000 billion%. And she, again, she makes it seem like Wanda's in control here. I, again, interpret that scene as gaslighting, right? She could be speaking to someone behind the eyes of Wanda, someone who is actually in control here and manifesting this world. Or it could literally be saying, "Hey, Wanda, you're in control, right?" One of the next lines she says, it's "You want me to hold the kids?" And it's posed as a question. You would say, "Kyle, you want me to speak right now, right?" Or not right, but you want me to speak right now. And that would be, in us communicating would be in the form of a question without explicitly phrasing it as such. So it's she's saying, "You want me to hold the kids," after making her feel like this is her scene and she's in charge, which I think is amazing to show because it is gaslighting. If that is how the scene is really going down, and Wanda's not explicitly in control, then Agnes is quite literally pulling the strings right in front of her face, just to get further into the story. And in terms of Sparky, 100%. Sparky was killed by her, and it was definitely to progress the children, to have these conversations about death and, to just tackle these real adult things real fast. And
which begs the question: does she want someone brought back from the dead? And that, right, because in the comics she has a son that's killed. Right, and I believe his name is Nick. What's the name of the rabbit? It's the same name as the rabbit, and so that is something that's interesting. And I see an interesting question in chat that I want to bring up here, Chris.
Yeah.
Before you have your epiphany here, I see you're working something in that great brain of yours. Kate says, "I'm starting to think Wanda is not being controlled, but is working in concert with someone else to enhance her powers." We talked about the idea of possibly her making a bargain with someone. So these parameters could be set in which she could live out a life with Vision like this. Because she said to Vision, this is happening because I want to be with you. She explicitly says that in the episode. But now we're starting to find out that Darcy says hex. And that's, I think, they're putting it right out there for us. Agnes is 100% Agatha Harkness. And if this is a hex, then Agatha is in some way responsible for what's going on. But I still think beyond, we still haven't seen her husband, right? Like, and I think that's got to be Mephisto. I'm completely sold on that theory now.
Yeah, I don't know if that needs to be Mephisto, or it's just like,
it doesn't need to be her actual husband. Because like the role of her husband in the sitcom, but like, the husband being the dominant person in their relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it would make sense to have, like, she's been speaking about this character for every single episode now. It would definitely make sense to have Mephisto come into the story as Ralph, just as any other character. These names, these nicknames instead of their actual name being, the limiting factor here. And it would totally make sense that if Mephisto is coming into the story, and it's not going to be like the grand reveal right at the end where, the children are fully grown and have superpowers, and then boom, like, it was all for this reason. And then, Mephisto is manifested as, Wanda's like, oh my God, what did I do? If it doesn't if that's not how this story plays out, then I think, Ralph will come into the story eventually. And of course be Mephisto. Or it could even be another witch, I guess. Because there are 3 witches, right? That kind of, or 2 other witches that kind of work with Agatha. I tried to look this up earlier, but I didn't have time. But
Agatha possibly working with someone here, because Agatha is definitely not stronger than Wanda, right? Like, she's
hell no.
Who hasn't been, by the way, named Scarlet Witch yet, which they hinted at the nickname in this episode, which I thought was really cool. That's going to come soon.
Yeah, 100%.
So it would make sense that we have a showdown of witches. You know what I mean?
I was rewatching it. I was writing the script last night for my upcoming video, and the scene where he's like, "Wait, she has no funny nicknames or no other aliases and stuff." Also, and speaking of that, Hayward Tyler, he in that scene does everything he can to discredit Jimmy, and literally like pushes him off. Like, he is such a fuck, dude. Like,
I think he's working for AIM or Hydra.
Something's up with him, man. Like, and he could just be the stupid good guy,
or he's a Skrull.
He could be. I also think it's very possible that he's just the stupid good guy. Like, he is just like, oh, military good, shoot first. Yeah, like, Wanda
or Director Hayward is dead, and someone's assuming his form. Like, I don't know.
It could be. And it also, like, I think that he could genuinely not be like some supervillain. I think it 100% could. I keep saying 100%. I need to stop. It could
100%. Believe me,
10 billion%. I swear. It could possibly just be showing us the perspective of what the people perceive Wanda as, like, because she has had a terrible reputation forever. Being born of Hydra. At one point working with Ultron, merging consciousness with Ultron, killing those innocent people in whatever country that was. Like, her perception is terrible. So I think, again, and all of that was just to say, that scene reveals that she has no other aliases. The people know her as basic ass Wanda, right? The Avenger named Wanda. That's what people are saying, right?
Yet in the discussion, when they're all in the room, they say she could single-handedly take down Thanos.
Yeah, Wanda the Avenger. That is a phrase that people in the MCU have probably said to each other.
Yeah.
So now I think this is 100% the story of the origin of the Scarlet Witch and how she becomes the Scarlet Witch. And that probably means what? Jesus, dude. That probably means.
Are you going for another 100%?
I was. I'm so hyped about it. I can't stop. I don't know why. I think it means that whatever happens in the story, she is not going to be perceived well. Like, she is not going to wear that proudly. She's going to be called the Scarlet Witch, and that is going to, be heavy on her heart. Assuming that she's not just a supervillain after this.
Well, she's going to be in Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
So this could be this happens before the last Spider-Man movie. So and we know Spider-Man 3 is coming out around Christmas time, and that's gonna include all of the other Spider-Mans, and I think they're gonna try to. Oh, yeah, that's.
I'm so excited for that, man. I am so excited. People talk so much shit about the first Spider-Man movies.
They're gonna have like a Sinister Six thing going on with all the other villains from previous Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, and people hate on on Tobey Maguire Spider-Man so much, but honestly, the only bad movie was the third movie, and I'm glad that there's no more after that. Or at least I don't think there's any more after that. And even like the Amazing Spider-Man with the other actor, like great movies. I actually don't know why. Yeah, Andrew Garfield. I have no idea why they stopped that series, because like I genuinely liked.
That was one of my favorite. Like, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the Electro stuff.
Electro was kind of I don't know. I don't want to say it was poorly cast. I like Jimmy Fox as an actor a lot, but
they're bringing him back as he's coming back.
They are, yeah. But it's just like something about his makeup and his design and his lips. Like his lips just look so fucking weird to me. I don't know why, but like just the coloration was just bad. But yeah, again,
well, they really set up the multiverse in this episode, Chris. I mean, we got Pietro, who was the Fox X-Men version of Quicksilver.
Is that how you're interpreting that?
I'm not, because I think it's Mephisto, but I'm just saying. Okay. But I'm saying, you know what I mean. This is the first introduction, like, you know what I mean, because Wanda's going to be in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. That's happening. That's already confirmed. Monica Rambeau is going to be in Captain Marvel 2, which is definitely going to tie into Secret Invasion with the Skrulls. So we're starting to get into some territory where we are going to see the Marvel, not just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. That is some big shit, man. When Fantastic Four was referenced, they're referencing X-Men, dude. Like, come on, man. It's going to be like, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Michael Fassbender's Magneto at some point. You know what I mean? Dude, and I just think like things are really snowballing.
I would really enjoy Magneto back in the story. I would enjoy more than anybody else in the X-Men series. Quicksilver, I'm glad that he's here. Evan Peters is fantastic. But honestly, the only other person that I would want to see really keep their role is Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, because he is just like, he is Wolverine. Like he is. There's nobody they could cast.
Did you hear the news about him in Deadpool 3? How they were going to do like a road trip comedy?
No, I didn't hear that. But I know that they're best friends.
Scrapped. And then Deadpool got reacquired by Disney and Marvel, so now they're doing a different Deadpool story. But the fact that they were going to have Wolverine in another movie. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are great friends too. Like that movie, that movie would have been fire.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they are buddies. Their on screen, presence would just be so good together. And yeah, but again, so I think 100% this is probably pointing to the exploration of the multiverse. And probably the most important thing about that is, and for us to consider, is that the story that we're seeing is Earth 616. Like, and if we are introduced to more dimensions, more realities, the multiverse, our story and what we know the MCU to be is Earth 616. So I think, and that hasn't been ever said in the MCU, that is, what we know from the comics, and because this story happens. But yeah, Earth 616, big point to remember. And I think a great way for them to introduce the X-Men into this world, the reason, while also explaining why they weren't there for Thanos, while, all of these things happened that the X-Men should have been worried about and just didn't freaking care, is if they go forward and say, mutants essentially didn't exist in this, in the current version of Earth. So maybe it's not Earth 616, but the MCU version of Earth. And now that we're going to these other other universes, that there is potential that's how these same characters that we know and love are going to be introduced, as they cross these boundaries. And that's the reason that we could have two Quicksilvers essentially. And yeah, I mean, like, I just think, I don't know. I think that right now there's a lot of ways they could play it, and I think that,
dude, I don't see your mind get blown on much, because Chris is not like, a hard person to surprise because he's so smart and he fucking knows shit. But it's just like just watching your reaction, I'm just like, yeah, dude, like this is so good because I know that Loki's gonna have like similar type of bombshells to WandaVision. Winter Soldier and Falcon will be like more tie-ins to, you know, more. I don't want to say more of the meta, but more the generic type of Marvel stuff that we see. But to start off with this is really ambitious, dude. Like, and it was so crazy because like Pietro was trending on Twitter on Friday, and WandaVision's been trending, and each episode I felt like it's just getting better and better. And we're probably going to get like an hour finale if they're going on with the idea that each episode, going through each era, like, you know, the 1980s, the 1990s, how television has progressed throughout history, having longer episodes of television as opposed to like, you know, the 24-minute sitcoms that we started off with the 1960s, like the comedies that we got.
Yeah, and someone just posted in chat that I don't think it's a coincidence that the movie that Pietro was set in was in the 80s, and he showed up in the 80s episode. That is great. I've never considered that. Great job. Yeah, I mean, that is super, super interesting. That could point to, you know, maybe what Wanda has done is this peek, right? This like kind of peek into what the other version of Earth is. It's not as much as she's created a reality as she's created a gateway to this other reality, which I think would be chef's kiss. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, there's a lot of ways that they could write it. Right away, my mind was like, well, what? Like, what did he do? Right? Like, what did he do? Did he die? Was he a product of Ultron and the Mind Stone, or, you know, is he Quicksilver that we know in X-Men, and is he a product of potentially Magneto, like Wanda in the X-Men series is herself? And yeah, I don't know. I think there's so many ways that they could write it, and the introduction of using this to introduce other aspects of like the superheroes that are now owned by Disney would be to say, hey, these are different dimensions, and like kind of compartmentalize them so that, yeah, they could easily be understood from the outside as why they weren't here for Thanos and why they didn't, you know, care about Sokovia and everything, right?
Dude, you know what else I think is going to happen in WandaVision? I don't know if everybody caught this, but Monica texts an aerospace engineer in episode 5. I think that she was texting Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four, and we may see his introduction in WandaVision.
Wait, who was texting? I'm sorry.
I think Monica was texting an aerospace engineer when she figured out after she shot the clothes and all of that. Remember? She was texting an aerospace engineer, my friend, and I think she was texting Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four. What about that, Chad? Did you guys catch that? Because I think that that's what's happening. I think she was texting a member of the Fantastic Four. And we got it referenced in the last episode, remember, because they stopped doing all of these missions to outer space. So it's not like if they do a Fantastic Four movie, they can't go back and show us how Mr. Fantastic got his powers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they can just do a flashback.
Yeah, they could definitely do that. Yeah, I think the Fantastic Four need to be involved early on, Phase 4, just to kind of like, you know, really shape their story as something that feels good. Like, that could be a part of the MCU that isn't explicitly like what we've been shown the Fantastic Four already. And honestly, I think the perfect way. Oh my god, dude, this is so good. I
want to hear this.
The perfect way that they could do this is, if this is the gateway to another reality, is to show the Fantastic Four and who the cast is going to be right away, because we know the Fantastic Four as 8 different people at this point. Like, Michael B. Jordan is not only Killmonger in the MCU, he is the Human Torch, right? So this would be a great way to just say, yeah, these are all different Earths. Like, these are all different realities, different possibilities. And in this one, this is the main story now. This is the Prime, I think, as they call it in the comics. You know, Earth Prime has now finally been included, and the Fantastic Four in Earth Prime
and you know X, Y, and Z. And you know what that does? Like, people have have their opinions like, oh, I like Tom Holland best as my Spider-Man, or I like Tobey Maguire. And what this does is this kind of takes some of the pressure away from some of the haters, and they can say, oh, I like, Earth 616 better than Earth Prime, and that's fucking totally killer, man, because we know how many Marvel IPs are coming in the next 5 years. They already have it all planned out, right? Like they did the Marvel Investors Day, like every single one of those things that they announced, plus more that are coming out. Like, for example, like the Wakanda show just got announced last week. They're doing a whole show about that. Like, it's just going to be insane. And it's so cool because we know we only get a limited amount of Marvel content. Like, we've only had big movies, Chris, like 3-4 a year. That's been the formula. It's worked for them. They've dominated the movie industry for 20 years. Yeah. Why change? You know what I mean? And now it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like they haven't even reached their final form, dude. Like, these past 2 episodes of WandaVision, are you kidding me, man? To be able to have the anticipation week to week for a couple of months, to have the discussion and the hype like trending on Google and Twitter and all of these other platforms, YouTube, Twitch, whatever, it's like just insane, dude. Marvel is next level. Like, you can knock them for Disney dominating everything, but Marvel has been so smart with castings, the story, what they've included from the comics, how they've done things. You might not agree with all of the decisions that they make, but they have fucking killed it, dude. They have just killed it.
Absolutely. And I think, like, in terms of final form, like right now, I think the greatest thing that they could do to match a Thanos level event is the Secret War series, and all of this leading to that. And I think that we'll probably be talking about that for years. As these shows come out, and as these movies and the cinematic universe expands, all of it, I think I will be keeping in mind how it plays to the bigger picture of the Secret Wars, because that is it. That is all good guys, all bad guys, one giant fight for humanity. Is just so good. That is
like the next Avengers. You know what I mean? Like Avengers 5, Secret Wars. Like, that could be the fucking title. You know what I mean? Like Secret Invasion, I think, is going to tie in more with Captain Marvel, but we're going to get some people that we thought were Avengers that are Skrulls. Like, that's 100% happening. And Secret Wars, even on top of that, that's like Avengers Endgame shit with all of the baddies and all of the good guys. Like, that will be fire. That will be so good.
So I think, starting the MCU, starting phase 4 of the MCU, I think it 100% makes sense. It makes sense that they would.
I'm giving you the shame bell, homie.
Someone keep a tracker, right? We'll just put it on screen.
It's like the amount of times I touch my glasses is like the same amount of time you said 100%, my man.
It's starting the MCU, phase 4 of the MCU, with the inclusion of the multiverse before we have the multiverse of madness, I think makes so much sense. I think that is a great way to say, hey, going into this next phase, it's going to be a little hard to follow at times, but we're going to make it, I hope they make it as simple as humanly possible. The time heist, of course, in Endgame was kind of like, okay, like that's kind of hard to follow. Their logic behind strands of time instead of just you can't, like, as in you can't go back in time and delete yourself kind of thing, makes sense. And that's how they want it to exist in the MCU. So I think, again, if they have like these very clear rules for where these people are coming from, in terms of multiple versions of Earth, I think that's their best bet, is to probably introduce it as early as possible.
What do you think, chat? Would you be hyped about Secret Wars? I saw some people get in the chat. By the way, let's do a couple of shout outs too, Chris. We got Captain RGD with an awesome question. We'll get to some questions in just a little bit, by the way. Kate Bertinsky. We have Fairy Doom, which is Chris's wife. Welcome. Anthony, welcome. Marika, Anthony. We also have Amy Blackfire. I'm just going to scroll up here so I don't forget anyone. Louise Brooks, Simon from Blaze Manga. You see all the art on the background in this wall. That's done by him. And, of course, the Fandom Media art on the channel. Jess is in here. Lady Leaf Underhill. Just awesome people in the chat. Lizzie French. Anybody else that I didn't mention, feel free to just hit us up and leave some questions. We're going to have like a 15, 20-minute section. We're probably going to go on for another 10 minutes about the episode here and then get some questions. Also, if you are enjoying this, everyone, hit that like button, smash the like button, because this is hype. WandaVision. We're going to be doing more episodes like this. Subscribe, of course. You can find all of Chris's social media, Twitter, all of that in the description of the video. And if you want to support us, you can leave a donation if you like, or hit that join button. Starts at $4.99 a month. Get cool perks emojis. I'm going to have some WandaVision ones. I'm not sure if I should do a Scarlet Witch or Vision one, but you guys can vote in chat at what you like the most. But yeah, man, like it's like, oh man, I don't want to say I'm surprised because I knew that there was going to be a big payoff for WandaVision. You know, it's only a limited series. We're only getting 10. Maybe there's talk about maybe a 10th episode as a special like epilogue episode. But yeah, man, I'm really genuinely happily surprised at some of the choices they've made. And it's just the format has turned out to be so good, man. Like I know we've been gushing about it the whole 45 minutes we've been live, but it's really been that good, I think.
Yeah. And again, it's like the slow reveal of a larger picture, this, you know, puzzle, this thing to figure out and analyze and just understand our feelings about the morality of what's happening, if it is Wanda, if she's being controlled. Just so many good things to make this what it is. And yeah, I mean, like in my script, I've debated editing this out or not, but you know, there's a moment where Wanda says or tries to use magic on the children and it doesn't work. And it's like, you know, is that inherently a moral act in the sense of, you know, it's different from a binky, right? Like your children are screaming and you could potentially silence them with a binky, but you know, magic is not a binky. Magic, you know, that you just putting them to sleep is taking away their agency some. And so part of me is like, you know, it's kind of painting her as this gray figure that, you know, will make these choices that aren't inherently moral choices by taking away the agency of other people, you know, even her own children, you know, when they're crying out for a need that isn't being met, because that's why children cry, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to consider, but I don't know my exact thoughts on it yet.
Oh man. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for WandaVision so far. We got to give a round of applause. Can we talk a little bit about Paul Bettany's vision? He literally 13 years ago started off as just voice acting for Jarvis, and now it's turned into this, man. Wow. Yeah. Is he the longest tenured Marvel? Like he's been working for Marvel across 3 decades, I think, essentially. Wow,
you're right. Now that Robert Downey Jr. is out, he's it's got to be the longest, yeah.
And like, dude, like Elizabeth Olsen has been just MVP. Like, she's been so good. Like, she's just like her range, just her studying the mannerisms of each sitcom from the 60s. Yeah. Like, she's been perfect, right? And displaying multiple personalities, different versions of Wanda has been terrific, right? But Paul Bettany, like, I feel like he's kind of been overshadowed because Elizabeth has been so good. Like, they've both been really that good. Yeah, and this goes to show how strong Marvel's casting crew is, man. They know how to pick their people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And like again, like I think, you know, going back to the first Iron Man movie where Jarvis was introduced, you know, we could potentially see longer tenured people that have in this form of Happy, the bodyguard, who is Jon Favreau, and Pepper Potts, of course. But other than that, yeah, I mean, he's been here the longest, and you know, these are 2 powerhouse actors, and the scene where, you know, they are in the living room, literally about to go blows with each other over just like this passionate, you know, moment of you know, questioning reality and you know, Vision being concerned that she isn't who she says she is, and or the reality isn't what she says it is, and it's so good. I mean, like, I'm kind of torn. It seemed like the special effects were a little off, you know, when they rose into the air, but I really attribute that to what the 80s version of that would look like, and not explicitly what their funding is, right? Because to me, I was like, oh, they're clearly on a rig, right? They're clearly being lifted into the air right here, and it doesn't look as good as I think they hoped it did. But it could also be speaking to, again, how the 80s version of that would look as they would, you know, have a spousal
as
argument.
far as like movie production worked in the 1980s, like
Yeah, exactly.
puppetry, like for ET and shit like that, those ET scenes, which was something that I thought about. Fairy Doom says, "Oh my gosh, I was so hyped during that scene." Same, and in the other trailers, without spoiling too much, they did drop a sneak peek trailer last week, which kind of showed some of the footage that was going to be happening over the final 4 or 5 episodes, and it looks like they're going to go at it, man. Vision and Wanda. So that's going to be really interesting. It looks like Vision is going to try to tear open the barrier because he asked Wanda what's outside of Westview, right? Like he hasn't got to figure that out for himself yet, and that's something that I think they're definitely going to explore, right? Because Wanda is trying to keep him there, but also they both don't really understand how that all started. So we're definitely going to get some answers. That's for sure.
Yeah. And what do you think when Vision takes Norm out of the out of the spell? What do you think he does there? Right? Like, how does he like tap into his being, and how does he remove the spell temporarily? And like,
but he also puts him back, right, to calm him because he sees like he's suffering.
Yeah. So like, what exactly is he doing when he takes that spell off of him?
Let's ask this question in the chat. Let's ask this question in the chat too. I'm really curious to see everyone's thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Right. Because we know Wanda's magic is working in the hex, but also Vision, right? Like we saw him disassembled outside in Sword. So obviously what we're seeing is this Wanda's reality magic, but it's still like looked like he was using the Mind Stone, right? And there's been references to the Mind Stone like throughout. I mean, the Magic Mystery Box that they used for the Magic Show had the Mind Stone on there.
Yeah, it feels like that he is that core programming and isn't the Vision that we know and love. But then he also is able to shift through walls, and then he's able to control people's mind or remove the spell that controls people's minds. And I don't know if that's a power that we've ever seen him do. Like,
you know what I just thought of, Chris, which is really
clairvoyant to the real situation.
I just had an epiphany, and I have to spit it out. Like the computation company that Vision works for. What if that was the actual facility where he's being held, right? Like computation science, and like some of those people that are there were some of the people that were experimenting on him. Because I mean, the footage that they got was previously when Wanda, before she enacted the whole hex, like. Right? Because she started and did this act partially because of what they were doing with Vision, right? So it would make sense that maybe some of those scientists are trapped in there. And maybe that Norm guy, I mean, I don't know, because the Norm's profile, I think, is on with the rest of Jimmy Woo's FBI profiles, where Agnes doesn't have her ID, which is really interesting, and all of the other people that we see, the Hearts that we see in the first episode that are having dinner with Wanda and Vision. It's just really, really interesting to get some more insight into like Wanda's first actions before the hex was surrounding all of it. And it begs the question of, why did Wanda do that? Like, did someone give her information that they were disassembling Vision, and then she went and did that? Like, did someone kind of light a fire under her ass, right? Like, who approached Wanda and how did she know this information? Because someone like Agatha or Mephisto could have, you know what I mean? Like, done this and been like, okay, you can be safe here, though. You go get Vision. I'll let you be safe in this area. And that could have been kind of the framework of the deal, maybe, that Wanda made to end up in this situation, where she's kind of forgetting about the initial parameters of the deal. And it would make sense because she doesn't understand how they got there. And, like Men in Black and all of these, other movies that when you make a deal with someone, they have important information. You don't want them to use that information to their advantage, so they'll like get mind wiped, or they'll be manipulated, or like, you know what I mean? They'll try in some way, shape, or form make sure that information isn't privy to that person who's obviously it's just like super sensitive information. You don't want that getting out.
Yeah, I think it's totally possible that she was given this information, and that ultimately was what led to her rampage. It could have been because she comes in with force, right? She comes in blowing doors open and, not explicitly saying, "Hey, I would like my dead husband back, thank you," or my dead friend back, "Hey, thank you." And we don't see that. That could happen. I'm not saying it's not possible that she tried a more diplomatic approach, but she comes in guns blazing, blows everything up, and takes what she needs. And that could be brought upon when she learns what they were doing to his body, or it could be brought upon when she learns that he's there, and that like gets a more negative picture of what's happening to that at him at that facility, instead of just maybe storage of his body, right? Like,
what's so interesting
she could
though,
have been
Chris?
influenced, or she could have just. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's really no other way. Like, she must have been told this information from somebody that probably wasn't working for her best interest, and wanted to manipulate her to go on this rampage, to retrieve that in the way that she did. Because otherwise, why wouldn't she use her resources as the god that just saved the world and make them give the body back, right?
What's really interesting to me is when she left the Hex, she could have killed all of them instantly.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she didn't have to bring back that drone and try to be diplomatic in that situation at all. Like, she literally had all of those soldiers under her power with assault rifles, and she could have had them turn on everybody and kill everyone there. Maybe with the exception of Monica, because she's got new powers or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is really interesting. The fact that she gave them a warning, but you know what I mean? She turned all the guns onto Director Hayward, which that's what's so interesting about that scenario, because Monica is like, hey, like, I don't want us to fight. Like, we don't want people to die here. Thousands of people are under your control, Wanda, and they're suffering. But I don't know, that there's still another piece to that we don't understand, because like, she just brought back that drone. And she could have killed them all right there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Chad? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, like, it could be the diplomatic approach, or it could be the benefit of keeping them alive is better than the benefit of killing them. Because if you kill all of them, if you show that blatant act of aggression toward the people that we consider the good guys, and that the world probably would consider the good guys, is that going to bring upon the Avengers back, right? Like, do everybody that can assemble, do they assemble again and try to, rescue their friend from this reality? And I think that's probably why she doesn't just massacre everybody.
I don't think that's in Wanda's character anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Despite her making a huge mistake in logins.
And it's like, I don't think it's her character at all. But it is, still leaving the possibility that this isn't explicitly Wanda, in the sense that she's being controlled or manipulated to do these things for a greater good, right? Like, I think she still could very well have made the deal with the devil to bring Vision back in some capacity. And the reason that she feels that she can control the population of an entire town, but not just blatantly murder people, is because, again, like, she needs to do a very specific thing to get Vision back, and bringing more attention than it already has to that realm, I think, would probably just, be detrimental to her. Or if she's being controlled, whoever is controlling her, it would be detrimental to them and their plot.
By control, you don't mean control every move, but manipulate it and influence the situation and information. Like, that's where I think we're at. Like, she doesn't understand the whole picture of what's going on. Like, she's obviously forgetting how that all started, and like, that's the second time that's come up now. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna find out how that all started, but
I think she is definitely being manipulated. I think that she's being controlled in the sense of that manipulation, but also in the sense that, and there's a lot of reasons to go against this, but I still believe for some reason that there is a possibility that Wanda isn't Wanda, and she is literally being controlled, right? Like, it's being masked that she is the master puppeteer, when in reality she is just the puppet for somebody else's play. And so again, there's a lot that says that Wanda has agency over the world and over the things that she's doing. But again, I'm still not taking off the table that she is
Yeah.
genuinely just being.
The fact that director Hayward completely discredits Jimmy Woo and Jimmy reaches out through the radio like, Wanda, who's doing this to you, just screams that something is being done to Wanda. You know,
and also think about that scene again where they reach out to Wanda. That is not a sanctioned action. Or not a sanctioned action. That's not like an approved action. It's not the whole team doing it. It's not like everyone assembling for like this tiny chance at communication, which everybody should have been, involved with. It is just the two people that we know to be good guys, and that's going to be Darcy and Jimmy Woo. Like
and Monica for sure. Yeah.
And Monica, but she didn't.
But she wasn't involved in that situation.
She didn't do that. Yeah. And
but she is important into the role of the diplomacy that in that whole situation where all the guns are drawn, right? Like without her, that probably goes pear-shaped.
Definitely could have. And yeah, I think it would also be if she does have superpowers after coming through the barrier like she did, I think it would have been really cool to like see Wanda try to do something and her just like, spit the bullet out or some whatever her powers. I actually don't know her powers, so I have to research who Pulsar, Photon, and potentially Spectrum, what her powers are in the comic series.
Well, she can fly, she can manipulate energy and matter, and she eventually becomes Captain Marvel at one point.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
pretty interesting.
That is super interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I believe her character shows up in like 1983 Photon or 1984, which is interesting considering that this is the 80s episode where they talk about it too. And I believe didn't Maria Rambeau founded S.W.O.R.D. in the 90s. So that would, but I don't know. I'd have to check the timeline stuff there. But it's certainly interesting considering, we got to mention that Pietro was the one who showed up in the 1980s version of the X-Men finally and all of that. So Marvel is doing next level connecting the dots with all of these Easter eggs and stuff and the stories in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall we take some questions, Chris? We'll go question section for 10 minutes. And this has been a super fun podcast, guys. A Marvel podcast. I'm going to get the podcast side of it set up eventually. But for now, we're going live. We're having fun every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about WandaVision. We'll be discussing all of it. I mean, man, there's 4 Marvel movies and 6 Marvel shows dropping this year. Thank goodness things are starting to turn around a little bit with COVID. Fingers crossed that continues. Everyone begins to be healthy and get vaccinated and all that. And someday we'll be able to return to the movie theater and walk down those stairs at the end of a Marvel movie, Chris, with the lights turning on and watching all of these after credit scenes that we've all enjoyed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really miss that, man.
Oh yeah, me too. I love going to the movies. Like that was like just growing up. That was like me and my dad. We would always just go to the movies and see the Marvel movies. And so I'm excited to get back into a physical theater at some point when it's safe.
Just going with a group of friends, getting everybody gets a little bit of different junk food you share. You get the M&Ms, you get the popcorn, you know what I mean? You get the nachos. Everybody kind of shares a little bit. Of course, that'll be a little bit different with how COVID protocols and stuff work now.
I'm not sharing anything with anybody ever again.
It's so cool, man. Then you would hang out after the movie, and all the other people, like all the people who or lame, would leave before the after credit scene, and you'd sit there and talk with a friend, like, "Oh, who's gonna appear in the first after credit scene in this one?" And that would be so cool. Those moments you get to share with your friends after the movie and talk about it. We got a donation. Let's give a round of applause to the Thank you for that. Of course, I split everything with Chris 50-50 here. When we do this, we'll accumulate it, and hopefully we'll get to see each other at a con at some point. But do you think Dottie is the witness in the witness protection program, big bad, or none of the above? What is your thoughts on that? I found the coloring of the breaking glass and the blood and her saying the devil is in the details to be really interesting because she's the only person that said that. The devil is in the details. That's a very specific word to use, Chris. Devil. Right?
Yeah, but that is a very common phrase, right? Like I think
the devil is in New Jersey, the lore of the Jersey Devil.
Yeah, 100%, 100. Yeah, but like the point is that
isn't her ID not on the Jimmy Woo's working storyboard? I don't think she's there. So it makes sense that she might be the person in witness protection.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my thought is exactly that. She could be the witness. She feels like a bigger character. Like the actress herself feels like she could be a recurring character.
Yeah.
And so I think in that sense, yes, she seems like more than just a basic town member. So yes, big potential for the witness. Though for some reason I thought uh, Jimmy Woo used like he him pronouns like to insinuate that he was a
That's
male.
true. Yeah.
But I could be remembering that wrong. Um, so I don't think she's a big bad. I don't think she's a witch or anything. I think that it's potentially none of the above. But yeah, I would like to see more of her in the sense that she seems like she could deliver much more to us in terms of show storytelling. Um, but yeah, I don't think she's Mephisto. Like I think the devil in the details was to set up Agnes, like
Mm.
just like us as an audience being pointed, like, hey, the devil exists, New Jersey, all of that. Cool storytelling, but ultimately leading to the point going to in Agnes's favor that it's foreshadowing her instead of foreshadowing Dottie.
I'm in agreement here with you too because I kind of feel like Sparky, the whole Sparky thing was a ritual to do maybe bring back Pietro, who could like rituals are often used in witchcraft and bringing back devil souls and stuff like that. So maybe like Sparky was the sacrifice to bring back Mephisto. We had the kids there, and the kids in the comics they're created from Mephisto's soul, and they were kind of wanting to bring back Sparky. So I don't know if that was kind of like a permission, kind of like a permission spell. You know what I mean?
Someone posted.
And death pays for life, right? Like the whole idea of death paying for life. I really like kind of that idea behind it. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Louis or Luis posted a conversation about the dog implied Wanda can't reanimate dead things. Mephisto brought him back, ? Yeah, possible. I think brought him back. I'm assuming that you're talking about Vision back. I think I either interpret that as yes, he is being reanimated because of magic that isn't explicitly Wanda's, because there is a core operating system that could theoretically be tapped into again. But I also think that she does interface with Ultron, meaning that animating something that isn't inherently organic, which in the comics is how it's described, is that she can control the organic things and the Mind Stone. But the idea that she could do it because of what's happened in the MCU is still on the table. Because I thought of that, I was like, wow, is that blatantly telling us that she has no way to control him, right? Because again, he's not human, and if it's not the Mind Stone still, then she has literally no way to interact with him and make him do what she wants. But again, I think there's still a possibility for that, sadly. I wish I could say that 100%, and because it would be really good to build a story in theory upon, but yeah.
I like the idea of Pietro being sent there. You know what I mean? Because Agnes, like we said, is always there to move the plot along, and the whole Sparky thing just is just so off. You know what I mean? The dog comes out of nowhere and all of that, and then the dog dies to the azalea bush, which can be toxic if it's ingested, and who knows if she was actually spraying lavender around. It could have been something much worse. That's just an interpretation for the sitcom. You know what I mean? When beauty products really started to be popular in commercials and stuff like that, we got the whole paper towel Lagos commercial, which is of the pop culture stuff that we often see in commercials. But yeah, I don't know. Just like Agnes's whole interest in the kids, and then their interest in bringing Sparky back from the dead is just so weird. We have another question, Chris, which kind of ties into this. Did Wanda have twins because her sisters are Olsen twins? No, but it's a funny question, right?
It's very good. Yeah. I think she had twins because she was a twin. But yeah, actually, that's canon now. She is.
It's just such a core theme of the show, though. We talked about the theme of For the Children. Like, why was that a thing? When there's no children in Westview, they have all these committees, they're doing all this fundraising, yet there's no children to be found. So For the Children, they're doing, I don't know, like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, this whole idea, like, I feel like the whole Sparky thing was a ritual, and since like
Yeah,
there's a ritual with the kids and Mephisto in the comics, it's just like, I don't know, I just feel like it's somehow related to that.
I don't think that. I don't think it's a ritual. I don't know why, but like the scene to me felt like it was either telling us, the audience, that she doesn't want to do it for a reason, or that she can't do it for a reason. And it felt like a good teaching moment. Like on the surface, it was like, hey, like, we can't use our powers just explicitly what would make us happy. There's a grander scheme to things, and life works a certain way. And, we can't just make things happen because we can.
And those teaching moments were often tropes in 1980 sitcoms like Family Matters and Full House. You often saw those kind of moments when kids were like screwing up or doing something bad or getting in trouble, having that, kind of heart-to-heart talk that we see in this situation. And I feel like that was kind of one of the influences that they pulled from some of these 1980 sitcoms that we used to watch as well.
Yeah. And the idea of, the dog being killed on purpose, again, it could point to her needing to advance the children further, for these lessons to be taught for a grander purpose about the rearing of these children, or it could explicitly just being used to show us that Wanda can't reanimate a dead person, or that we shouldn't, I guess. Which, again, she's reanimating Vision, the dead 100% dead Vision. And so I think
Agnes is so curious about it too. She's like, "You can do that?" Like, she's like,
and I think, it also makes me think, like, is she subconsciously not considering Vision a human, right? Because she, or organic or alive, or ever alive, because she's like, yeah, we can't reanimate this creature, but she consciously does it, in a very hypocritical way. But is this like a Freudian slip where she's like, because she's definitely not honoring Vision's wishes. She's acting as if he is a mere means to an end, and that end being her happiness instead of a means himself. And of course, I think that, all of that adds up to her not genuinely respecting that he was his own person at the very end of it. And man, I hope that's not the case, because like the growth of Vision to becoming a real boy, it was pretty cool. It maybe like, and you could only really respect and understand that if you really look specifically at the Vision story. Then all the pieces really come together about like how his character progressed and how he became this real boy. But and so again, this could be the MCU's way of kind of showing and dedicating more time to that, to really flesh out those grander ideas of the reanimation of life, and the having agency and ability over other people, and not using it when you should, or when you shouldn't.
Marika makes a really interesting comment. I really thought how dismissive Wanda was after Vision buried Sparky was off. And that's right after that, Vision's like, Wanda, like, I know what you're doing. You know what I mean? She talks, and then he references Norm. So he gets pissed off. And then the kids were sad, which is a thing. I mean, I was sad when my first dog died. That's just a normal thing. But Wanda was like pretty dismissive, like almost like gaslighting Vision, right? She was like, life moves fast in the suburbs, like that common trope that we often hear in these kind of sitcoms. So it is kind of interesting, because Wanda felt really unsympathetic there. And then she's like, oh, I created this all for us. And then she says, well, I don't know how all this started. That does, like, those things do not align. All of those things.
And well, it kind of does, right? Because it does in a backward sense of, she could have created this world as a part of that deal with the devil, for a goal. Right. And, now this is all bringing back, like, so all of those things are true in the sense that, yes, she created the world, and yes, she did that, but she also, forgot, or a part of the deal was that, you need to not be in full control, or not be a part of the picture, or have your memory erased. in the sense that it would ultimately lead to the resurrection of her husband and everything that she's ever
You're
wanted.
really getting on this deal with the devil stuff I've been talking about, huh, Chris?
I mean, yeah, the thing that we've been talking about for 3-4 weeks now, yeah, 100%, still on that, yeah, yeah, but yeah, I think Mephisto and a potential deal being made is entirely on the table.
Chat, should I do a whole theory video on Agnes? I feel like I have to drop one now. I feel like I have to go through all the details now. I feel like I have to do one.
Yeah, I think you should.
Either that or on Mephisto, but I think like Agnes, because I think that this episode 100% confirmed to me that she was Agatha Harkness. I don't know how. Chat, how do you feel about it? Do you guys think she's a witch? Because I mean, they showed in the trailers that she was wearing that witch outfit, right? Like we still haven't got the Halloween episode.
Yeah, I feel like two weeks ago we said that she was definitely Agatha Harkness, and since then, like I've been convinced there is no other person that she could be.
And we still haven't got Wanda dressing up in the old Scarlet Witch costume. And we got that in the trailers. So that'll be interesting. When they kind of hinted at that she was going to get that nickname and the whole deal with witches and her being Scarlet Witch, and how you talked about how she could be perceived in a negative light for her trapping thousands of people in Westview to enact this false reality where her and Vision can live out some sort of semblance of a happy life. Well, definitely. I mean, it's like going to become news, right? Like after people are untrapped in Westview, are they going to go to the news outlets and talk about what happened? Like, are they going to have any memories of it? It's going to be really interesting to see if like we see that, like the actual consequences of all of it.
I honestly, like, if Wanda thought she was in grief before, imagine how she's going to feel when she comes to the realization that she essentially just turned people into slaves. And not even mindless slaves, right? Which would kind of be a better slave in the sense that that person would not remember what happened to them. They are not only conscious, and a few things have pointed to this. I believe they are fully conscious and understanding of what's happening to them, while also enacting things that they don't want to do. Like
you got that from Norm, right? Because he was like, "Help me!"
Yeah, help. Exactly. Yeah, proof exactly there. So like. And I guess ultimately it's left to teach their own. But like, would you rather be the slave that you don't remember what happens, or would you rather remember everything? Red pill, blue pill, I guess. But imagine the grief that she's going to feel when she realizes like exactly what she just did. Yeah, I don't know. I think
Wanda will feel sympathetic because she's confused, right? Like she's confused. She's not.
I mean, like there's no way, right? There's no way that she would consciously do these things. Like, I don't know. Again, she's being manipulated for a grander purpose. I think she's still the good guy of the story. I think she's still the ultra powerful, badass babe that we know and love. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that she is very conflicted, and love and loneliness and just. All of these things can make you do so many things. And of course, like even Monica describes this grief, like, going into the force field, going through these things, like the pain that she felt. And the next best thing that she felt was that grief. And that was just all consuming. And, so that speaks again, I think that could hint to Wanda, or it could also hint to whoever's in control being grief stricken, like maybe Mephisto. Right. And yeah,
only exists in this type of state because he's not whole. Somehow I don't know. I just find it so interesting because in the Loki trailer, I don't know if you guys saw it, there was a painted glass window with Mephisto on it. And if he's going to be appearing in Loki, it would be kind of makes sense for him to appear a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Like in WandaVision.
And speaking of doing a video, I think both a video on Agatha Harkness and a video on Mephisto would be amazing. I think both of them are guaranteed characters at this point. Agatha way more than Mephisto in a lot of ways, because there are other characters like the Enchantress is kind of related. And shout out to my buddy Zach who sent me that. That could be leading up to the big bad instead of Mephisto. But ultimately, yeah, right now, I think it's Agatha Harkness as Agnes, and the goal being these children, and the goal being these children in relation to Mephisto.
Yeah, I'm on the same track as that, and that would be. I'm all aboard the hype train for that to happen.
Oh yeah.
I think it's going to be really good regardless, but yeah, wow. WandaVision so far has been really good, Chris, and I just
Oh
think
yeah.
it's only going to get. We only got 4 episodes left. Well, technically, yeah, 4 because 9. But there's rumor that there might be a 10th episode, like 9 being the finale, and then 10 kind of being this like epilogue type of deal, which I think would be really interesting and a nice surprise.
Oh. What if they did like how Game of Thrones did like the making of, because that could be a really good way because of like how the story is being told through television. That could be a really cool way to like put a lot of pieces together or elaborate a little more on other pieces.
And if they did 5 episodes, Chris, that would end on March the 13th, and then the next week we would have Winter Soldier and Falcon. There wouldn't be. So perhaps we have a week break before Winter Soldier and Falcon. Like that's possible because Winter Soldier and Falcon comes out. What day in March? The 20th or it's the night? It's the 19th. It's the 19th. So it's on a Friday. That's really soon, man. So that's only a month away, and that's a pretty big deal, right? We're going to have our second Disney Plus Marvel show, and I'm sure some of the implications of this will also affect Winter Soldier, not to the extent that it will affect Doctor Strange and some of the other IPs like, Captain Marvel, because these characters will be appearing in those IPs. But
yeah, I mean, I also wonder like when the Winter Soldier and Falcon storyline will be. Has anything released about that?
Well, it's going to have Baron Zemo, and it's going to have Secret Agent, someone who's employed by the government to take over the mantle of Captain America. And that's and we know that Steve Rogers himself gave the shield to Falcon because Bucky was like, hey, go talk to Steve. You know what I mean? And Secret Agent is actually going to be an antagonist, I think. And Baron Zemo is going to be the main antagonist in Winter Soldier and Falcon. Remember, he was the one that killed T'Challa's father in Civil War.
Yeah, and kind of started all of Civil War.
And he was the one who controlled Bucky to go crazy again back into his Winter Soldier.
It's so funny. I was actually because you said Baron Zemo, and I was like, wait a minute, that sounds so familiar. Is that Helmut Zemo's dad? But then it's the same person in the MCU. But it was so weird because I was just like randomly clicking through the wiki in the comics wiki or the Marvel wiki, and was like on this character and like how their story actually happens in the comic series with Adhesive X and like that thing getting basically glued to the face by the father who created Adhesive X for Hydra, and then the son Helmut. Yeah, one of those. Ultimately, having the same or similar hood, but again, now it's in the MCU. It's essentially just that guy.
And now that Red Skull is gone, Baron Zemo is playing kind of the Red Skull role. You know what I mean? He's going to, and that's that's always going to be a super interesting angle because like essentially he's a terrorist, right? And he's not a superhero. Like, he's not like Bucky. He doesn't got super soldier serum in him. So he's got to be intelligent. And he's got to make strategic moves to fight basically with gods. Essentially, his Captain America was almost unkillable. You know what I mean? So it's going to be really interesting to see where they take that. But I hope that whatever happens at the end of WandaVision, this affects the whole Marvel universe, because I have a feeling that it is going to be. There's like I'm not saying that the Evan Peters Quicksilver stuff was a fake out at the end of this episode. There's going to be something bigger than this happening at the end of WandaVision. Like this isn't the biggest moment of WandaVision. Evan Peters.
No.
Like, there's going to be more cameos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
Doctor Strange, I think, is going to appear. I think
there's definitely dimensional things happening here. I think that would be the best thing that they could do. That would be a pretty great reveal. John Haymaker says, what's the deal with Quicksilver? Username unknown. The sword base alarm was going off when Quicksilver arrived at the door, meaning again that he came from the outside of that dimension into that dimension, which I think is great. It could point to, man, like this could be like the outside. We could be seeing like this is the MCU Earth that we've seen everything happen in, or it could be an altered version where like that is Quicksilver, and so the Quicksilver of this Earth world is flying through, is like, hey, oh my gosh, what if snap? Okay, Sword in this other world. Sword figures out that this is happening. Wanda's like, okay, takes over this world. In this other world, Wanda then creates this reality. The X-Men, who are prominent in this other world, then see, oh shit, something's happening. Sword is this dominant force, and they have, just had this breach, and then this happened, and this happens, and people are disappearing. So the X-Men go into action. Quicksilver runs through that fucking barrier. The alarms at the Sword base go off, and as soon as he enters that barrier, he becomes Pietro. The only way that our Wanda could possibly interpret that person is there.
Holy shit!
I think that is entirely possible what happened.
Chat, did you fucking hear that? That is in Chris. Holy shit.
That could be it, dude. That could be it. Because everything that enters that is perceived in a way that she can perceive it. Quicksilver from another universe or the X-Men universe or where that's prominent, flying in to then save the day and then becoming the Pietro that she knows and loves. 100%.
That's nuts, chat. I don't know if I can say anything that tops that. I really don't know if I can say anything. Like, I think
that'd be so cool.
I think we have to fucking end the podcast, man. Well done, Chris. Let's go. I'll give it up for Chris for that. Yeah, dude. Oh man, I'm just 2020 was a difficult year for sure. As a content creator, I struggled. I'm not gonna lie, but this year is just popping off, dude. There's so much stuff to cover, and man, I can't wait to see what happens in WandaVision, but I'm so excited for Loki.
Yeah, me too. Oh.
Soldier and Falcon, dude. Then we're going to have Marvel's What If in the summer with basically all these alternate multiverse realities. That will be super cool to discuss. Maybe we'll get Hydra Cap, which would be cool.
Oh, so cool. Actually, the first
and the universe where Tony Stark is Doctor Strange, like Robert Downey Jr. is Doctor Strange or some shit, like wicked ass shit.
I would love to see Robert Downey Jr. in any other role. He's a great actor. But that comic, I forget the name of the comic, but the first of that series where Captain America becomes an agent of Hydra. I have that comic. It was like the first big comic that I bought that I was just like, ooh, yes, I want that. I also actually just unloaded a box of comics that I had as a child, sitting in my living room right now. Just an assortment of like Captain America and Hulk and Black Panther.
How many Marvel Funkos you got in the background, brother?
Oh man, probably not as many. Like Game of Thrones is like the bulk of this one here, but there's some Iron Mans here, different anime characters and video game characters there.
Oh, yeah. My whole background is anime. I'm gonna go watch Attack on Titan after this. Actually,
so good.
And we have My Hero Academia.
Have you seen Hunter x Hunter?
Oh, dude, that's my favorite anime of all time. That's my number one.
It's so good, dude. Yeah.
Killua is my all-time favorite anime character.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I also like this guy.
Sure.
Goku. But yeah, I got Sephiroth over here, and you can see Cloud, and then you can see the League of Villains, and yeah. By the way, all of these prints you can get on Etsy. Check out Blaze Manga. They do all the art for the channel, and they make all of this awesome art. I'm debating. They made a new. By the way, they have Marvel prints on there. They do Marvel prints. They've done Thor Ragnarok prints and Captain Marvel ones, and all of the Avengers fighting Thanos too. So that's and we like supporting other artists here on the channel and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah, they do great work.
Funko Brary, the Funko Brary, and it's February. Our next episode will be on Valentine's Day. Are you going to be able to make that, Chris? Or are we going to have a Valentine's Day date for WandaVision?
I will definitely be here. I got a very understanding wife, best wife, NA.
Actually, if your wife wants to join us for the podcast, maybe she wants to come hop on. We could. We can have a guest.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
Or anybody that's interested. Maybe we can have one of our awesome listeners from the chat join in and chat WandaVision. Yeah. We want to do cool things here in the podcast. Like I said, we hope you were marveled like us. This is the Marveled podcast. We're marveled so far by WandaVision. It's been excellent. And I think it's just a really positive note, to start off 2021 by giving us, we waited a long time to get our Marvel stuff back. All the theaters were out last year, of course, and we won't talk too much about the negative stuff, but I feel like this is such a great start to the year, man. Like, it's really bringing people back together. Obviously, we've only had the format of Marvel movies before, and it's so different to have something to talk about week to week like this and to look forward to. The anticipation is so cool.
Oh, yeah.
As a content creator, when something drops all at once, like The Witcher on Netflix, I love it. It's just so hard to discuss. And it just gives us a chance to chat with all of you and hang out with all of you weekly. You know, it's just such a cool thing.
I also feel like if The Witcher did release week by week like this is, we would have so much more to talk about, because I consumed The Witcher all in one sitting, and because of the timeline play, I had no clue. I was like, what is happening? Like, it took me a little bit to figure it out and to like understand where everything and when everything was happening. And so I feel like if they did week by week, it would allow us to immerse in the lore so much more. And I hope that is a great benchmark for, you know, how people consume television, and how, you know, maybe the old way of weekly releases was just genuinely better. And the binge culture isn't exactly like, you know, great because it's just instant gratification. Whereas like what we really want and what's best for us is if we are able to understand these stories on a more intimate level. But ultimately, yeah.
That's what happened with The Expanse. Like, The Expanse was a weekly show before it got canceled on FX. And then it went to a binge for the first season of Amazon, and now went back to weekly. And it was just the best sci-fi show. It was just amazing because we got to discuss everything week to week, and it was so cool. And you know, I pray that happens with The Witcher, because as a content creator, it's so hard to drop 8 episode reviews all at once. You know what I mean? So, so for us as fans, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I like binging shows too. There's nothing wrong with that. But the weekly format is just so cool because, yeah, we're selfish and we want to talk about it more.
It's like the house on or the manor of Bly, or the haunting of Bly Manor. There it is. Great story. One of the greatest stories ever told that is also a horror story. And you know, it was only until I watched the new one, the sequel to that, where I remembered how good of a story that was, because it came out, I binged it, I loved it, ranted and raved about it for a week, and then forgot about it for the 2 years until the sequel came out. And then I could only remember it by, oh yeah, that was different, or those actors were the same. And yeah, that was a great story. Yeah.
Feels like it would be a smarter decision. Like the sustained discussion, like you got huge content creators like Emergency Awesome and Heavy Spoilers that are top 20 trending with their WandaVision videos every Friday. I don't know how to fucking make the 20-minute videos before I can get my script done by noon on Friday.
Well, I think they all have like a team of people too, right? But and you know, and no,
we're doing everything ourselves.
Yeah, and you know, no mark against them. Like I think all of us as content creators hope to achieve that one day. But yeah, it's crazy how quick they work. And Kevin Smith also has a live stream that I've been watching that is very good. You know, Kevin Smith, and he has one other guest. I forget the name of him, unfortunately, but yes, very good. If you want more WandaVision content, like the breakdowns like this, I think they do theirs yesterday or the day before, and it's very good as well.
I agree with Theridium. I'm tired of TV shows being like movies in that sense. And like I said, we've got to absorb Marvel content for 20 years in the form of movies. And the fact that they are doing this well with their first IP on Disney, pardon me, I think it's just crazy, man. I mean, I expected nothing less than excellence from Marvel and Disney. Yeah. I mean, they got the money, they got the right people, and they know their shit. The people that are making decisions can't make mistakes, or you're fired. You know what I mean? They need to be like A+ on everything. But yeah, holy hell! Thank you everyone for joining today. It's been a super fun discussion here with Chris Hacks Dogma. What's next for you, my man? You're doing the episode. You're going to drop your WandaVision episode breakdown, right?
Yep, that is next. Expect that in a couple days, I guess. Whenever I have time.
The joy of being an audio editor, video editor, content creator, social media manager. Yeah, and Chris, where can they find you? Twitter and YouTube, right?
YouTube and Twitter as Hacks Dogma, and Reddit as Hacks Dogma. If you want to follow me on Reddit, I like Reddit a lot. I need to use it more, but yeah.
Dude, I haven't ventured back to Reddit since my early YouTube days with the Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. I will not venture back there.
Yeah, it can definitely be a pretty elitist and pretty. I don't know. It's a weird internet culture.
On Reddit, though, they took on all those Wall Street bastards. I applaud those people. Those people are awesome.
Yeah. We
won't get into that, no. Don't shut down our podcast. Sorry, no, just kidding. Yeah, go check out Hacks. Links are in the description of the video. Hacks Dogma. Best Westworld content creator, in my opinion. Whenever that comes back, that's going to be a while, I think. But Marvel content, other content on his channel, Hacks Dogma on Twitter and Reddit. Guys, you know what? I'm just going to be honest with you. The style that I've been making videos is probably going to change. I think I'm going to do more reaction videos, having conversations like this with you in WandaVision videos. I'm exploring a new format of videos, so my next WandaVision video is probably going to take some time to get out, but I have a new intro, I have a new outro, and I've been working on everything here on the channel to improve and just become a better content creator in 2020. Yeah. I'm not satisfied with those 1 million view videos I got with Game of Thrones, okay? I'm not fucking satisfied with that. Okay? I am ready to just go all in with Marvel and The Witcher here in the channel. You're going to be seeing lots of videos from Kyle, but that's going to take time to get organized, okay? And yeah. What's that?
She said stay within the Pride lands where the light touches, not Reddit.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, man. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. It was so cool. We had like 64, 65 viewers up from like the 40 we had last week. So yeah, tell us what you like about the podcast, what you would like us to talk about. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the description of the video. We can't get to every single question, of course, when we're having a discussion like this. Yeah, any awesome comments or questions we'll try to feature in the future in the podcast. If you do want to support us, Chris, do you have a Patreon that you rock?
I do, yeah. Also on Patreon as Hacks Dogma.
If you want to support us, support Chris on Patreon or myself. Also, $4.99, hit that join button. I'm going to be introducing some Marvel emotes for the live chat and the podcast. We need 3 more people to hit that join button to hit our goal of 10. So if you want to support the channel, Patreon in the description of the video, or hit the join button. Of course, you can also support the channel by liking the video and subscribing. Hit that notification bell so you get updated for all the videos that are coming on the channel. And yeah. This has been super fun, everyone. Hope that you're all staying safe, of course, with the COVID still happening. And hope you all have a great start to your week tomorrow. We will see you on Valentine's Day. It's a date. It's a date, chat. I hope to see you all in the chat. It's a date. I'll see you on next Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining, everyone. Hope you